Hey everyone, it's your girl Diamond Young, founder of the Black Directory and podcast host of the Black Directory Podcast. And we are back with another episode. I have a very special guest with me. I am super excited, y'all. Not only are you going to tap into her story, but we're going to learn. Hey, bring out your notebooks. Don't say I never told you guys anything. Get ready to take some notes. We're going to get some gems, and it's going to be on all things legal, which is super, super important for your business. And this guest is Liku Amadi Esquire. Put some respect on her name, right? We love to see it over here. And she is the creator and founder of her own law firm, which we're going to get into today, which is the Anasa Law Firm. So tell us a little bit more about yourself and your law firm.
Where do you want me to start? First of all, thank you for having me. I am an award-winning attorney. I am licensed in California, the founder of Anasa Law Firm, where I mainly work with coaches, consultants, strategists, and expert service providers to help them establish a solid legal foundation for business. And that's via trademarks, contracts, which are my bread and butter, and then just general legal strategies to not only help businesses protect themselves, but protect themselves for a purpose. And what that means is realizing the assets and the value that they've created in their business and showing them how they can leverage those things to make more money without overworking themselves or putting in extra time. Because as a business owner, we all want that time to frolic and be with our loved ones and do what makes us happy, right? Not keep working all the time. So that is the purpose of Anasa Law Firm. We are heavy when it comes to education. So teaching our clients about the legal essentials of doing business. I'm also a speaker in different group coaching programs, containers, cohorts at various events here on your podcast, Diamond. And I just want people to know what they can do when it comes to the legal parts of their business. Again, not so that they just avoid trouble, but they see where their advantages lies and they can use those advantages to have what they want.
No, I'm just so happy about the work that you're doing. I think, of course, with me being a business owner, and even besides being a business owner, just in the Black community, just to go deep for a little bit, but there's a gap, right? There's a gap as far as when we hear legal, what do we think about? Or it's that misconception sometimes of, oh, I don't have enough money for a lawyer, because I don't know if anyone else has been through this who's listening right now, but it's a lot of times I'll see these videos online and they're like, okay, if you have a business, you got to have a financial advisor, a lawyer, and it just sounds expensive. And it sounds overwhelming, and it sounds like something that's not urgent. It sounds like, okay, when I get to this level of my business, I'm gonna then hire these people, and everything is gonna be good. So let's talk about that for a while. Let's unpack that. For one, are you familiar? Have you heard of that before? Where you're like, okay, yeah, I know. Okay,
Most definitely, and I know what you're talking about, and I get it, right? Because people get into business to make money. Like they want the things that make them money. So when it comes to investing in their business, they're going to go towards those things that, make them money directly versus those things that, keep them good on the back end or keep them tight, keep them operationalized, keep them protected. Like you see the money first, right? Which is why people will spend thousands, tens of thousands on, coaching, messaging, marketing, branding, all critical components of business, but then wait until they get to a certain point, whatever that is, right? Because we always move the goalposts, whether it's been,
right.
I've been in business, 7 years or when I make seven figures or when this product launches or this service does that, right? At that point, then we decide, okay, it's time to get serious, hence accounting, finances, taxes, legal, right? The scary stuff, if you will, that we put on the back burner. But I think that also just depends on education too. Again, as someone who started their own business, like I get it. We gotta make some money. Like we can't just be out here, playing around, especially post-pandemic season. A lot of people started businesses, right? To get that freedom to make their own money, to not be subject to the corporate, the golden handcuffs, right? And just be let go like that. They wanted that power and control. So making money is a huge part of that. But I say education is critical because when you understand, like, oh, I have to get protected, again, protection for a purpose, right? I have to get protected for this reason, then you might think a little bit differently about the
Exactly.
legal, accounting, finances, etc. So education, it has to start there.
I think so too, because if you don't even understand how serious certain things are, because if you do, you're
Hmm.
naturally going to be like, no, I have to prioritize and make sure that I'm covering myself versus like, oh,
Exactly.
I'm a little company. No one's going to come for me. It doesn't really matter. Like, it's like,
Hmm.
no, you have to look at yourself. It's not about big or small. It's just about the foundation, I think, of things. So
Exactly.
yeah, that's what I'm just excited about our podcast today. I think people are going to walk away just learning something more of, oh, wow, I have access to those things right now, or these are things that
Hmm.
actionable steps that I can take, or things I can start
Right.
reading up on. And we're going to get into that a little later, like the legal essentials.
Hmm.
But let's go back to you and your story and just how you were drawn to what you're doing now. So you were in corporate before, right? Or
Yes. Yes,
okay.
I was. So I graduated 2017, got my first law firm job at a small to mid-sized firm out here in San Francisco. And, San Francisco is the spot, for business,
Yeah.
like financial district, etc. But anyway, I got my first job there. Was killing it. Got a lot of cases, doing all the grind work and whatnot. And then I wanted to transition to a larger firm and do like employment law, right? Deal with employment discrimination, that type of thing. And I finally landed what I thought was my dream job after all this interviewing and searching. And then, literally a week later, I didn't even get to decorate my office, Diamond. A week later, we got the notice from the governor, everybody's working from home, shut down, COVID hit. So
Mm.
this was March 2020, right? And so we
What a
immediately
time.
transitioned. What a time. We immediately transitioned into working from home. So for me, my experience wasn't like, let me get acclimated to the firm. It's more so like, I got to shift with everyone, right? And of course, the
Mm.
security that I was looking for a larger firm, more pay, more opportunity, more visibility, like all of that got called into question because now people are also getting laid off left and right due to the pandemic, right? So it was a very uncomfortable environment to be in, working from
Mm.
home, which is something that I didn't naturally do. I was always in the office. I don't care how long I had to stay. So just
Yeah.
there was a lot of things happening at once, and it was impacting my quality of life, to be honest with you. The microaggressions, the disrespect from not even colleagues, but support staff who are supposed to be helping me
Oh.
do things. And, just all of the implications of being a Black woman in corporate America. And I just, at some point, decided, like, I don't have to do this. Like, it's not worth it. Being in the pandemic and just realizing things can happen like that, right? Whether it's someone passes away or you lose your job or there's, no more opportunities, relationships, whatever it is. I want to live my best life. I want it to be a quality
Mm-hmm.
life. I was too young to be stressed. I worked too hard. So I wanted it to be the way I wanted it to be, right? And up at that point, I had always said, I'm never starting my own law firm. Like, put me in somebody's desk and give me
Really?
a check. I did not want the business of running a law firm. I was just like, let me just do my work. Just let me do my work and I'll be good if somebody gives me a paycheck. But at that point, I was just like, I have nothing to lose. If it doesn't work out, I can literally always go do something else. I could go be a carpenter. I could go be a teacher. Like there was literally, endless options. So
Right.
I made the decision to go. I still had 6 months at the firm and I made an exit plan. Found out I was pregnant in the midst of my exit plan. And that was confirmation for me to
Life
leave
be
because I was
lifing.
like, oh yeah, it do, and it'll show
So
you,
this was
right? Like, do you really
2020.
want
So this is
this?
all 2020. That
Yes,
was a
this was
crazy year
all
for you.
2020. And then
That
I
that
left
year was
in
insane.
March 2021. Yeah, March 2021.
Oh, like the law firm you were working at, you're saying by that
Yes.
following March. Okay. So
Hmm.
yeah, I don't even know where to start. You said so much. I'm like, okay, I'm
I
thinking
know.
about the pandemic and how that was
Yeah.
crazy because I was in San Francisco at that time before I moved to Houston. So
Um,
yeah, I'm just like, the pandemic was such a cultural reset. It was a reset in
mhm.
every way you can think of. And well, you had the great resignation going on. I know the corporate companies were mad about that. Like, I think we all had
Mhm.
so much time on our hands and we had time to really reassess, what do I want to do? Am I really
Absolutely.
happy? Like, we all had too much because when you're at work
Mhm.
and you're on the go, like when we think about life before the pandemic, you don't even have
Yeah.
a chance to think that deep because adrenaline's rushing, you have work, you have responsibilities, and you're trying to squeeze into social
Mhm.
life, family life, whatever. And I'm sure I always thought this was so funny. I know corporations are just like, they have too much time on their hands. Like, we're like, I can start a business. I want to have kids.
Mhm.
Like, it's just people really had a lot to think about, whether it was decisions on the personal side of, why I really want to travel more. I want to spend time more with my family. Like, I've
Mhm.
poured in so much into work. Who am I? So I think it's
Right.
always interesting for me when I meet people that have had any kind of like life change during that pandemic window.
Mhm.
Even for us, we created Black Directory March 2020. Like, it was a lot
Yes.
going on. And I think it's all a good thing. Of course, you can look back and you see where you are now. And it's like, okay, I'm on the right path. But
Right.
were you afraid? Like, of course, you had that. You were experiencing those microaggressions, but we've all kind of had that
Mhm.
limbo game or that back and forth of like, okay, am I really doing this, or am I just like, or
Mhm.
like pushing a date back of when we leave, like, okay, I'm gonna push it back a little bit more. Like, did you go through that at all?
Surprisingly, I didn't. Like once it slipped
Mm.
in my mind, because we had all that time to think. So once that thought came into my mind, I was like, "Oh yeah, it's do or die at this point. Like it's just not worth it. Like I don't have to be here. They need me, right?" So just this
You're the
shift
prize.
in perspective. Exactly, I'm the prize, and it just again, it wasn't worth it to me. And when I found out that I got pregnant, I was like, I don't want to be in this position when I have kids. Like I want to be a specific type of mother. I want to show up for myself. I want to show up for my children. Want to show up for my husband. I don't want to be consumed in work. I want to build my quality of life around what I want,
Mm.
right? And that's how I'm building my business now is around my quality of life versus in corporate where my quality of life was depending on what was going on in the job.
So, a question for you that I was just thinking about this whole time.
Mhm.
There's so many different lanes with law. You have entertainment law, corporate law. We were talking about that. Did you always know specifically what kind of law you wanted to do, or how did you get to that point of like, I want to serve this group right here? Consultants, coaches, people that are
Mhm.
providing services. Was that always clear, or did you kind of think about other lanes, or was it pretty clear?
Yeah, it definitely was something that I had to figure out. So I never envisioned doing this. I really wanted to be in criminal law. And so, fortunately,
Mm.
law school gave me the opportunity to have various internships. One was with the public defender's office, another one was with the prosecution's office, another one was with a solo practitioner, right, who did various types of law. So I did get that insight to see someone running their own firm. So that
Oh,
was
that's
very
perfect.
insightful versus like, government or law firm jobs. When I got out, I did insurance defense, and that was for landlord tenant issues. So both residential and commercial. On the commercial end, I was like, you know what, this employment stuff looks really interesting, discrimination and harassment. And so I went that
Mm.
route. And then I was working for the big corporations. And I was just like, I don't want to use my expertise to help the billion-dollar companies. Like, I want to use it for
I
people who
see.
look like me. I want to use it for people, who are trying to make a difference in the community. Like, I don't want to defend large corporations. So I came into my own practice still wanting to do some employment law and business advising. But once I started working with consultants and coaches, and I just really appreciated the different expertise that each of them have, like I can get in my bag and talk about legal stuff all day. So when I see
Yeah.
someone else get in their bag and talk about, mental health or money psychology or, DEI
Hmm.
practices. Like I love that. And so I decided that I'm going to focus specifically on those people. And because that industry is, for the most part, unregulated, like there's no rules. So all the more
That's true.
reason that people need a legal foundation to operate their business from. So I love it.
No, and I can sense that, and it's amazing to feel like you're doing purpose work. I think we
Yeah.
can all just we can get in where we fit in and just get to the bag. But it is cool when you get to that point where you're like, oh, I like what I'm doing. I like who I'm serving. Because we can like what
Hmm.
we're doing, but it's in a certain capacity, or like you said, if it's under the big corporations, we're not in but so much control as far as clients or who we're servicing, or those
Right.
kind of things. So it is cool, I think, on the entrepreneurship side, having that freedom that you have now of like, okay, I can choose my clients. I can really do
Hmm.
more or less of the work that I want to do or don't want to do. So
Right.
I'm excited just of what you're able to do now, this newfound freedom. But how has it been? Okay, so March 2021, you
Hmm.
left. You were still pregnant by then, right? Or you just had
Hmm.
your okay. So
I
how
was
was
3 months
that?
pregnant.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so how was that transition to like, okay, job is gone now. Like, did you take time off
Mhm.
in between, like before you were like, okay, we're doing a law firm, or how did all that go?
I mean, not really. It was a pretty smooth transition because I would work in, the daytime. And actually, my first trimester of pregnancy kind of had me down because I was so fatigued. So I would work as
Mm,
much as I could, at my job wise. But then when I wasn't working on that, I was, making a business plan. Ooh, this idea, working on my own law
yeah.
firm. So when I left, coincidentally, my husband actually left his job at the same time. So we had a week,
What?
took a little mini vacay, just real mini vacay, and then hit the ground running. He got into his new job, and I announced that I was launching my firm, and people started reaching out to me. So it was a pretty smooth transition from corporate.
That's a blessing though, because I know
Yeah.
everyone's story is so different when it comes to finding those initial clients. And it's like,
Hmm.
okay, like, do I have to do ads? Is it going to be word of mouth? Like, how was it for you? Did you
Hmm.
find that like just by using social media and marketing that kind of flowed more, or was it a mix of word of mouth and relationships as well?
Whew, man. I mean, definitely starting out relationships, right? Like you said, when pre-pandemic, I was always on the go, networking
Mm,
event after networking event, trying to get out there, meet people. And so I saw that the fruits of that labor, was me
mm,
getting clients, or, oh, you opened your own law firm, I might need advice on this and that. So that's how that came in. But I very much had to learn, number one, outside was not open and I was pregnant. So we extra inside,
yeah.
right? Just to
Right.
stay out of the
Right.
pandemic. So all I had was online business and marketing for the most part. So that's been something
That's
that I've
true.
had to learn so I can speak to the particular type of clients that I want to speak to, so I can find, where they hang out, my messaging, all of that has been fine tuned. And I'm really proud of the work that I've done there. But that's been some work too, is just that on a marketing level. But now that outside is back open, I'm definitely looking forward to getting to more retreats and
Mm.
events where I can meet other business owners and potential clients.
That's really, really interesting. And you're right now that I'm thinking about what that time frame was. The world was in a different
Hmm.
place. We couldn't
Hmm.
just go to networking events anymore. And yeah, it
Right.
changes your whole strategy when it comes to how do I let people know, hey, I'm here. And everyone's
Hmm.
online. We all have this time on our
Yeah.
hands. So you're still trying to like cut through the noise of like, hey, like I have some
Hmm.
something to announce, but it also shows like the importance of your network. If you weren't outside to begin with beforehand, just building those relationships. Those are those same relationships that come around later of like, hey, I actually just opened
Right.
my law firm, and people are like, oh, word, okay, let me tell someone, or I'm interested. So
Right.
it just shows the power of networking, and you never know when your network is going to come in handy, but it's cool to make
Hmm.
those. It's important to make those relationships all along the way, anyways. But a last question about for you about like the whole corporate thing.
Hmm.
When you left, is there anything? where you're like, dang, this is the stuff that no one tells you about, kind of thing. Like, because we are, we get into the business, and it's some things we
Mm-hmm.
expect, and it's some things where you're like, whoa, I didn't know it was going to be like this. Is there anything about entrepreneurship where you had that moment of like, ooh, I didn't know it was going to be like this?
I mean, man, you talking about last question. We could spend the rest of the time, with these things that I just had to learn. So I think to put everything, under one umbrella, it's a journey. And what I mean by that is the personal growth and development, the unlearning that I've had to do, just as me as myself, right? In order to run a business, in order for me to put myself out there and say, hey, I'm an attorney, I'm good at what I do. Like, this is me, this is how I talk with my clients, right? The imposter syndrome that I had to let go of, the confidence that I had to gain, the security in being myself, full fledged, first generation Tanzanian, like mom. All I had to embrace all of that, and it it took some work, right? Entrepreneurship is definitely like a beast of personal work for you to properly show up in your business and serve people, right? So there's all of these societal just expectations placed on women, placed on mothers, microaggressions, stereotypes against Black women, and what it means to be a professional, what you think about when you see an attorney, right? Learning to unlearn and let go of those things and define what a lawyer is, what a mom is, what a woman is, what a business owner is for yourself. So that's been first. Nobody was saying that on Instagram, right? They talking about make $10,000 in 10 days and form your LLC, but like that's the work of it. That is the work
Yes.
of it, and that nobody can tell you that. You have to experience it for yourself, in my opinion.
No, I totally agree. And that's why I asked, because I think everyone has different moments where you're like, whoa, that's something. Even if someone told you, it's like you
Hmm.
still have to walk through it to really see.
Yes,
Oh, and it's not even like, oh, it happened one time, I learned this thing, we're done. It's really an ongoing, revolving
daily.
door. Yeah, and we're wearing all these hats, and we
Mhm.
already have the whole imposter syndrome thing going on. And then it's like you have societal norms playing. So it's
Mhm.
different. Some of it is internal pressure, that we put on
Of
ourselves. That,
course.
can't blame it on anyone else. Some stuff is societal, and some things are like, oh, well, I've seen leadership look like this when I worked at these firms. So
Mhm.
some of it is kind of trying to like try it in other people's way, the way that they did it or the
Right.
way that we saw it. And then it's like, oh, I don't know if this really fits my business.
Mhm.
Like, I've tried this style and it may work for me, but that doesn't mean it's going to work for the people I may bring on or my team. And so I think it's very
Right.
interesting. And during that time, you're wearing a new hat as a mom too. So it's like you got mom
Ooh-wee.
hat, wife hat, boss hat, like marketer hat. Like, it's just a lot. And
Mhm.
it's like, I see how people could either lose themselves or just go
Oh
through
yeah.
such a transformation when it comes to who am I, and how do I want to be? How do I
Mhm.
want to lead? What does that look like? And realizing too that it's okay to make changes, because sometimes I think we may pick like, okay, this is the method, this is my approach, this is like the way
Mhm.
I'm going into it. And something that I've been saying a lot this year is just pivoting, and just the notion of it's okay if the business isn't what I thought it was going to be, as far as like, oh, I may have thought I was going to for sure provide these services, but it's like, actually,
Ooh,
people are asking me a
yeah.
lot for these services. Okay,
Mhm.
that's not what I envisioned. Or it's like, oh, I'm going to be like a little bit more laid back and chill. And it's like, oh, wait, I think I need
Mm.
to be a little bit more assertive. Like, I don't know. I've dealt with
Right.
that where I'm like, okay, I don't know if this is really in my personality, but I think I need to become this person, or kind of just be a more
Mhm.
adaptable and try different things before I'm like, no, this is me and I'm not going to change. It's like, okay, you may have to
Right. Gotta
just
be
try on
flexible.
different shoes and see what's a good fit. And it may not be the shoe you thought, like, all right, that's the one, but it's like,
Right.
okay, that's something I've been thinking about a lot this year. Is just pivoting. Like it's okay to
Mhm.
switch gears or change courses, or sometimes you think your audience is like, okay, it's for sure these people right here, like it's them.
Right.
And it's some other people that's like, oh no, I would love, yeah, we need help. And it's like,
hmm
oh, that was not on my bingo card.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like I talk about trial and error a lot. Like you just got to keep, like you said, seeing which shoe fits the best, right? You may have wanted that stiletto over there, but it's those pumps that you got to put on for this season, or, it's a
Yeah.
lot of trusting yourself to figure that out too, to guide yourself and realize, what, this may not be working, or it doesn't have to look like this. So again, just a ton of personal growth
Mm.
that happens like when you're pursuing entrepreneurship.
And I think in embracing it, because I think it's also, you said, oh, maybe this pump works better than this stiletto. Like you said,
Mhm.
seasons, because that shoe may work for a while. Like it may have been like
Right.
that first shoe you put on, everything was flowing, working for, it could be a year and
hmm
a half, 2 years, multiple years, but there's a season for everything. And it's like, okay, like,
hmm
yes, this worked originally, but it doesn't mean I have to cling to what worked, And I think that goes
Right.
into risk taking and just being, I
Mhm.
think, outside of our comfort zone of like, it's okay to try on some new shoes and look around and see,
Right.
what makes sense, get new perspectives and things like that. But so for your business, like what does growth look like for you, say, to scale in the next few years? I think you were telling me before about a legal resource program that you're working on. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, it's funny you're talking about like seasons and, serving certain people and whatnot. So the way that I want to serve, the way I'm currently serving people right now is on a one-on-one basis, right? Taking on clients, working with them on their contract or their trademark needs. And like you said in the beginning, legal services are expensive sometimes. And I would say that mine are not cheap, even though cheap and expensive are relative. But I value the work that I do, and it certainly sets my clients up for success. And that's not always accessible to everyone,
Mm.
right? And at the same time, you cannot serve everyone. Like you just can't. You have to find different ways to do it. So one thing that I do is like I mentioned earlier, like teach in group programs, cohorts. There's a co-working space out here in the Bay Area. I've done several workshops for them. And that's just because that's something that I love to do, right? That's part of entrepreneurship, is finding what lights you up. And it lights me up for me to teach about legal stuff and doing business. And people go, oh, that's what that means, or that's what they were talking about when they said this, right? Like
Mm.
it finally clicks. So I love that. The program that I'm building, however, is a middle ground between, trying to DIY and piece everything together yourself and working with an attorney, one-on-one retainer, your go-to attorney for business, right? That middle ground that I'm building is what I'm calling the holy grail for online coaches, consultants, strategists, and expert service providers to start building that legal foundation. So that includes contract templates that are beyond fill in the blank. They're comprehensive, they're detailed, they provide context, right, as to how to use them and what's going on in your business. It includes supplemental resources so that if you have a contract, you have a list of considerations, right? If it's a partnership agreement, for example, a list of
Mm.
considerations about how to properly enter a partnership, or some negotiating terms, or what
I
you do with your
love that.
intellectual property, right? Because when you have guiding principles or just guiding factors like that, your questions with another partner become different, right? If we want to work together and we're like, you know what, yes, it's good, but if I have a list of things to ask you and you start answering them in a way where I'm like, that's a red flag, no, I don't want to work like that, right? That might make me change my mind. So I want people to be able to make informed decisions. And then the third part of that is having the ability to ask questions. So not give legal advice, but get that knowledge, that education for you to again make an informed business decision. And I want people to have that foundation before working with a lawyer one on one. Because when you do
Yeah.
get to that point in your business, whenever that is for you, You don't want to have a broken foundation where a ton of things either need to be fixed or changed, or it becomes extra expensive. Whole time you're elevating yourself, you're protecting yourself, you're setting yourself up for success and to get there faster and easier because you have your legal ducks in a row. So that is a resource that I'm building that's going to be launching in the fall. We're currently doing beta testing with people right now who are testing out these resources and giving us their feedback. Like, yeah, I really like this, or like, what about having this? That would help, right? Because as an expert,
Mhm.
I can tell you, hey, listen, you need these 5 things to run your business, right? The contract, the trademark, et cetera, et cetera. But as the person receiving that, like, people receive things different ways, right? So this
That's
beta
true.
program is helping me get the perspective of those who are going to be receiving it, so I can shape it in a way that is a total package for them, if you will. So I can talk about that too, on and on. But in short, I'm super excited about that. And I want people to be empowered when it comes to their business, because when you know you got your stuff together, you show up different, you act
Yep.
different, you go get more money, you're not scared, right? And not everybody's operating like that. And that's a huge component of being in business, is being able to show up and, say with your chest that you can help
Yeah.
someone without looking over your shoulder and thinking, I don't know about this contract, but we'll take a risk and see, right?
That is so real. Like, you just want to have that confidence. No, I'm totally with
Yeah.
you. And I just see how important this program is going to be. So I'm excited to see how it develops. You already know we're going to be supporting you because, like I said, I've used, we've all heard of LegalZoom, and we're trying to find fill in the blank templates online. Like,
Hmm.
most of us have probably been there. So but when you say comprehensive, just the way you're describing it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a gap. Like, we need something where we're actually learning, and not you're helping me fill
Right.
in the blanks and I have no clue I still can't read it to really understand what it is that this is saying. I just
Exactly.
know, well, I have the contract now, so we're good. And it's like, wait,
Hmm.
what does my contract say that I'm giving to someone else? So I think it is just a
Exactly.
huge educational opportunity. So I'm just excited about it, especially just in the Black community. I think that
Yeah.
we may be the first entrepreneur in our family, and we're trying to figure it
Hmm.
out because sometimes we have the skill and the talent and we just want to zone in on whatever that is. And the
Yes.
business part seems overwhelming. The legal part definitely
Hmm.
seems like, okay, I don't even know what's happening. Is this really necessary? It's like something that you don't want
Right.
to do, but you need to do. So I think it's
Hmm.
cool having these conversations because I'm hoping that it shifts our mindset to like, no, let's make sure all of our business is in order. But something I wanted to
Right.
ask you is like, I know you're doing your beta testing and just with different clients. When it comes
Hmm.
to Black business owners, is there any trends that you're seeing where you're like, oh, I'm noticing this common mistake or this one thing that everyone's kind of like, either it's a misconception or maybe a trend in like, okay, everyone's missing this same kind of maybe legal documentation. Is there anything that you've been seeing?
With the Black business owners in particular, no. But just generally, like in the online business space in particular, yes, seeing a few things like, when is the right time to get your LLC, right? After you've made a lot of money, or when you get us to a certain point in your business, versus understanding why it's supposed to be there for protection. Um,
Mm.
Contract templates, definitely, like you said, you can fill in the blank, but if you don't know what it's doing for you, right, and you want to give it to a client to sign, like, that's a huge red flag. And I'll also
Mm.
say that I appreciate that people do seek out contract templates, no matter how bad they might be, because at least they know, like, I need to get some stuff in order,
It's
right? So that's a
something versus
great first
nothing.
step. Exactly, that's a great first step. And I'll also say, just following, there's a lot of business coaches or like business influencers. And because they've made a lot of money, or have had, a lot of success, people, they're influencers, they listen to them.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, or I've seen oftentimes, like, a lot of that information is incorrect, or it just doesn't apply to people who are starting out their business versus someone who's been in business, 7, 10 years and has maybe figured
Mm,
out like some loopholes or just some workarounds. So I think there's
right.
also just a lot of misinformation on that part too, which is why, again, education is so critical, because if you know what these things do to protect your business and how they impact your business or may impact it negatively, how you can take advantage, right? Like if you know all of those things, you make different decisions. So I would say those are some of the things that I'm noticing just in the online
Across the
business
board.
space.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No, that's good to know. I definitely want to at least ask. That way we can, as people are hearing it, they're probably like, "Oh, I've done that," or "Okay, yeah, I think so." And I do think that overall we are. It's a blessing and a curse. This online space. It's a way. Like I feel like
Hmm.
I've learned so much on
Hmm.
TikTok. I'm on TikTok more than Google. Like it's just. But
Right.
technically, if that's not your lane, no matter what it is, it could be starting a vending
Hmm.
machine business. Like it's a little bit of everything online, and you
Right.
really don't know what's what, because sometimes
Hmm.
people will say, whoever's making the video will say whatever they're saying. I'm a comment girl. I'm
Hmm.
going to the comments, and it's always
Right.
a few people that's like, no, that's not correct what they're saying,
Hmm.
because my dad owns 10. Like they're saying you
Yeah.
could make this amount of money with one vending machine, but really it takes about 10 to really see a profit. And you're like, oh,
Hmm.
because they want you to get the ebook. They like that's their hustle. So it is kind
Yes.
of like
Yes.
using that discernment to know,
Hmm.
like, okay, I'm hearing this information, but and I think that's just us building that muscle of like, y'all, it's okay to do our own research too. Like we can hear something, it
Right.
doesn't matter who it's from, but we need to start educating ourselves. Like if it's terms that they're saying that we don't
Hmm.
know, or just starting to create new habits in that way, I think. But I don't know. I'm just excited overall for what you're going to be providing soon. I think is so necessary for everyone because, like you said, by the time you hire a lawyer, you're not starting from like basics. You're like, all right, I already have
Right.
this and that in place. I feel good about the LLC or this. Okay, I'm ready for this next level of things that I want to implement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, most
Um,
definitely. And just to add to what you're saying about like people doing their own research, I think TikTok seemed to have everything. Number one, like it's TikTok is crazy, but I think that is, social media is easy to look for stuff and find it, especially in the business realm, and you don't know what's right or wrong.
right.
And so I think at that point, like you do have to go talk to that expert. So I tell people like you don't need to pay an attorney $10,000, $5,000 to have a conversation with them. A lot of attorneys have, free consultations or paid
Mm,
consultations that are like 50, $100, a few $100. So it kind of depends on, how important that information is to you. But you can
right.
certainly find an attorney. There are law schools that provide business clinics where they have law students, advising people under the
Oh.
supervision of licensed attorneys. Right. There's resources out there. So if you live not too far from a law school, see if they have a business clinic. Sometimes they even have family law clinics, or clinics for veterans. Those are the three clinics
Mm,
that we had at
okay.
my law school. There's legal aid programs in, sometimes, your chamber of commerce has legal resources. So there are ways to go and find an attorney to talk to, just like you can find an accountant or, financial
Mm,
professional, like whoever you need to talk to. If it is a
right.
vending machine person, like book a call with them, ask your questions so that you
Mm-hmm.
do know like how to move forward versus just taking information at face value
And
and trying
running
to
with
figure
it.
it out
Yeah.
yourself, right? So I just wanted
Because
to say that's available as an option.
no, and that's good to know. Like, even I'm learning something, and all I keep thinking about as you were talking is like, me doing some research, getting with you, and just putting together a list of what's stuff that's out here that people just don't know that's out here.
Hmm.
Because I think that's what gets everything started. It's like, okay, like I do have resources at my fingertips, and
Right.
I don't have to shy away from legal things because, in my mind, I hope this, with everyone listening to this podcast, I hope what you're taking away is that you don't have to put down half your mortgage. Like, you don't have to do all this stuff just to get
Right.
some information and to learn a few things and kind of get pointed in a direction.
Hmm.
There are a lot of resources out here. That's what I'm taking away from this, which is a good thing. It's a good feeling of, okay, like, I don't have to put this off until my business is super successful, just to make sure that
Right.
I'm taking proper steps to protect myself, my brand. Some people have
Mm-hmm.
products. You may need some
Mm-hmm.
trademarks. Like, you just need different things in place to make sure you can enjoy your business without looking over your shoulder, like, if something's not
Yes.
done correctly. So that'll
Yeah.
keep you up at night.
Right,
That
exactly.
will
And we
keep
don't
you
want that
up at
stress as business owners. We want to be free, right? Stress free. So yeah, exactly.
Right. We want to make sure we're good. But thank you so much. This has been like an
Of course.
amazing episode. Like, I'm happy. I learned a lot about you. I'm sure everyone else is like, okay, I didn't know this, I didn't know that. So I'm just so
Mhm.
appreciative of you being able to come on, share your story, share your journey, and telling us
Of
what's
course.
next. But I guess before we go, tell everyone where they can find you, how they can support, how they can maybe learn more about the program. I know you said this fall, I
Mhm.
believe, but just, yeah, how can we support you?
Yeah, follow me on LinkedIn. I'm heavy on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. So you can find me there if you put in Liku Amadi. I'm the only one who will pop up. So you can follow me on LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram at Lawyer Liku, but less active at the moment as I've been heavy on LinkedIn. And then you can subscribe to, and I'll send you the link, Diamond. But subscribe to be on the wait list for this program that I'm launching in the fall. It's in a few months, but with the wait time is fine. It's going to be right around the corner. So we might have an opportunity for additional beta testers. If that's something that you're interested in, then you can definitely reach out about that. But otherwise, that's the best way to stay connected with me and figure out what's going on.
Awesome. So for everyone that's listening, I will make sure to put all of this in the show notes. That way you can just click the links to her socials, and for the wait list as well. And yeah, I'm super excited. So thank you so much for coming on the Black Directory podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.